Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Nicole Thomas, and I'm from the Future Students team, and I'll be your host for this evening's graduate information session on double master's degrees at the Melbourne School of Design. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional custodians on the unceded land I'm on today, and on which the University of Melbourne Parkville campus stands. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. I'm delighted to have with us Professor Paul Walker. He's Interim Director of the Melbourne School of Design and Professor of Architecture at the University of Melbourne. Just before we get started, if you have questions throughout the session, please feel free to submit these via the Q&A function at any time. My colleagues from the Future Students team are ready behind the scenes to answer. We also have the opportunity for live Q&A discussion after the main presentation. I'd also recommend keeping your chat window open during the presentation, as we'll be posting relevant links to topics mentioned. And the presentation is being recorded and will be made available to view on demand. I'll now hand over to our presenter, Professor Paul Walker. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Can I have the next slide, please? Thanks, Nicole. As Nicole said, I'm the Interim Director of the Melbourne School of Design. We are awaiting the arrival of our new director, who will be with us in semester one this year. I wanted to start by saying something about our faculty. Our faculty provides outstanding education to activate the next generation of built environment leaders, as the slide says, and professionals and thinkers able to create and influence our built world. So we push the boundaries of knowledge to enable graduates, researchers and practitioners at the leading edge of their fields. So that's our goal. In this slide, you can see our building, which really embodies many of the things we try to do. It's relatively new, it's only 5 or 6 years old. It was designed by the Melbourne practice of John Wardle Architects and jointly with a Boston practice, Nadar Architects. So this, I think, shows our commitment both to local excellence and to a kind of international connection that we want for the Melbourne School of Design. This building is still one of the best facilities for built environment education and research in the country, and I think the Melbourne School of Design is really one of the leaders, possibly the leader in graduate research and design in Australia. So this building has wonderful facilities. Apart from teaching spaces and staff offices, it has a fantastic workshop. It has a digital fabrication facility, leading edge of technology. It has a built environment library, which is the best in the country. And I think we probably have the best Wi-Fi in the university. So these facilities are all things that if you enrol in a degree at the Melbourne School of Design, you can use and participate in. Can I have the next slide, Nicole? So the work you would do at the Melbourne School of Design, we try to organise classes in a way so that you are involved in working collaboratively, the kind of same collaborative approaches to work that you would find in built environment workplaces. And this is really to ensure that you are, ready to work very productively in industry straight away from when you finish your degrees. Teaching in the Melbourne School of Design is conducted through studios, through site visits, field trips, and interaction with industry practitioners. And the aim of doing this is to give you experience of real life situations. And I think this year, 2022, will be very exciting as we're moving out of the restrictions we've had over the past 2 years because of COVID. And our aim this year is to really reactivate our engagement in live activities at the Melbourne School of Design. Many of our teachers are practitioners working in industry, so we have a bunch of hundreds of sessional staff members who are practitioners. The permanent members of the academic staff are very often involved in practice themselves or undertake research alongside practitioners. So we really have a teaching cohort who are very, very strongly aligned with how practice is being conducted as things unfold now. Most classes in the Melbourne School of Design have tutorial groups of around 15 students, and studios generally are conducted in groups of 15, 16 students as well. Lecture courses may be much larger than this. However, even in lecture-based classes, there are tutorials through which assignment work is undertaken and investigations are undertaken collaboratively within tutorial groups. So, you know, these small class teaching is absolutely central to the pedagogy of the Melbourne School of Design. And these small classes that we are very focused on allow interaction between students and teaching staff to occur in a very comfortable way. As I said, many of our teachers are highly qualified professionals, and all of them are leading researchers in built environment issues. Can I have the next slide, please, Nicole? So some of the activities that we undertake in the school, apart from teaching, really support the ethos of the centrality of design, the centrality of contemporary knowledge of built environment disciplines to what we undertake. So one of the very important things that we do is undertake to exhibit student work. We have a major exhibition called MSDX, which is held twice a year. It's a very large event, which pre-COVID and hopefully this year again will occupy all the spaces of the MSD building. And you know, and it's a great opportunity to showcase student work undertaken in the MSD each semester to a professional audience. So MSDX, the student exhibition, we invite a huge cohort of Melbourne professionals to that, and very often this leads to opportunities for students to interact with professionals in the built environment disciplines looking for new staff members. These exhibitions, as I said, have been online in 2020 and 2021, but we anticipate that these exhibitions will again take place in the MSD building itself this year. this exhibition culture, or this exhibition, the MSDX exhibition, is not the only exhibition that's held in the building. We have a gallery called the Dulux Gallery, which regularly holds exhibitions of staff design work by alumni of the faculty, graduates of the faculty, and visiting exhibitions of work from elsewhere in the world as well. And I should say that MSDX features not only design work, but also coursework from programs like urban planning and property and construction, which are less design oriented than some of our other programs like architecture and landscape architecture. As well as a program of exhibitions, which I think enlivens the place, gives the Melbourne School of Design a very lively sense of its place in the Melbourne context. We also have a regular series of extracurricular talks and lectures, again, which build up this culture of design, inquiry, investigation, contemporary research. The most noteworthy of these series of talks are the Dean's Lecture Series held each year, again before COVID and hopefully again this year. Those Dean's Lectures are given live in Melbourne by visiting international stars in their fields and all the fields that the Melbourne School of Design teaches in. And typically those Dean's lecturers are, as I said, leading professionals in their fields, and not only do they give a keynote lecture, but they generally spend time with students and classes and give guidance and feedback on how they see the work at the MSD in relation to other work internationally. So the culture that the faculty or the Melbourne School of Design tries to stimulate is both connected locally to the local professions, built environment professions, but very much connected internationally as well. We know that many of our graduates will go on to work in places other than Melbourne, other than Australia, and we're very keen to build a culture which supports that international aspect of the work the faculty of the School of Design can support. Could I have the next slide, please, Nicole? So, to find out what happens to our graduates and to read stories, in fact, about all the Melbourne School of Design activities, you can visit the website listed here, our Discover website. This page includes news stories from the Melbourne School of Design, both about student achievements and student projects, but also research findings from projects undertaken by academics as well. You'll find on this page profiles of students undertaking master's degrees in urban planning, architecture, property, and all the other programs that the Melbourne School of Design has. So please visit this this page. It's constantly updated with news stories about students and staff activities. Next page, please. Next slide, please, Nicole. So the Melbourne School of Design has 8 disciplines in which it teaches. Architecture, architectural engineering, which is taught collaboratively between the Melbourne School of Design and the Melbourne Graduate School of Engineering. We teach construction management, landscape architecture, property, urban and cultural heritage, urban design and urban planning. These disciplines each have academic staff drawn from around the world and we have many Australians obviously as well. So our staff, our academic staff, are leaders in their fields internationally and in Australia. As I said before, the academics are all involved in research in their fields of national and international significance, and very often these research projects which they undertake are done in collaboration and done jointly with leading practitioners both locally and internationally. Next slide, please. So here are the double degree combinations which I'm here particularly to promote this evening. These degrees were developed to be offered first in 2021, but because of COVID, really they've been strongly promoted only now for semester 1 in 2022, and so these are mostly offered in 3 and 4 year streams, and I'll go through each of these degrees, each of these combinations, to tell you what the typical length of study for students starting now would typically be. However, I should say that if you have done a double major at an undergraduate level, which corresponds to the 2 degrees in the double degree masters, typically the arrangement would be that you do 3 years of study. But the Master of Architecture, Master of Construction Management, most likely most students starting now would probably do 4 years of study for that degree. The Master of Architecture, Master of Landscape Architecture, also 4 years mostly. The Master of Architecture, Master of Property, 4 years in most cases. The Master of Architecture, Master of Urban and Cultural Heritage, 3.5 years of study for that double degree typically. Master of Architecture, Master of Urban Design, typically 4 years of study. The Master of Architecture, Master of Urban Planning, 3 years of study. The Master of Construction Management, Master of Property, 4 years. The Master of Landscape Architecture, Master of Urban Design, 3 years. The Master of Landscape Architecture, Master of Urban Planning, 3 years. The Master of Property, Master of Urban Planning, 3 years. The Master of Urban Planning, Master of Urban Design, 3 years. So, for the degrees which are typical, the double degrees which are typically 4 years, there could be some reduction in length of study depending on whether you have done subjects at undergraduate level which correspond to the other degree that you're studying in your master's. So for instance, in the Master of Architecture, Master of Construction Management, if you've done an architecture major at undergraduate level and done some construction management subjects as electives within that degree, even though you haven't done the construction management major, you can apply to get advanced standing, and that could reduce the period of study. So you need to look at look at what you've studied at undergraduate level in some detail to see, or the university would need to look at your study in some detail to determine whether you have some opportunity for advanced study or not. Now, I should tell you that there are available Commonwealth supported places for all of these degree combinations for domestic students. They're allocated on academic merit, but most students, most domestic students, most Australian students would be eligible for Commonwealth supported places in these degrees. All right. Can I have the next slide, please, Nicole? So why undertake a double master's degree? Here are some reasons that we have listed. You know, you graduate into a jobs market with a competitive advantage. So there is a certain advantage in having knowledge of more than one field, more than one built environment field. It allows students to further their studies in two interest areas rather than just pick one upon completing an undergraduate degree. So we know that many students in the Bachelor of Design, say at Melbourne University, and other undergraduate degrees in the built environment disciplines across Australia, many of them have interests in more than one field, and a double masters allows you to keep that interest going. It increases flexibility and choice of employment. The built environment disciplines have different patterns of economic activity, so some fields are more buoyant than others at particular times. So having a double degree allows some flexibility and more employment opportunities depending on what the market is like at the time of your seeking employment after your degree. Graduates with skills and knowledge to work across built environment disciplines are highly sought after in industry. I think that one of the things that's happening in the built environment fields is on the one hand, fields are becoming much more specialised, but they're also becoming much more integrated with each other. Architects work very closely with say landscape architects or urban designers or construction managers. Property professionals work very closely with construction management professionals, and landscape architects work very closely with urban designers and urban planners. Doing a double degree allows you to build knowledge and understanding of more than one discipline, and even if you were, say, working as a property professional, it allows you, in working with construction managers, to understand their take on a project that you might be working on together, and to be be much more productive in your relationship with them. The double degrees will be fully accredited, meaning graduates will enter the workforce with dual qualifications in a reduced time frame. and really it gives you an opportunity to network across disciplines and to discover unique professional opportunities. So one of the things the MSD, the Melbourne School of Design, is trying to do as a whole, one of its aims is to be a fulcrum, a focus for discussion between disciplinary groups across the built environment fields, and I think that students and professionals in built environment disciplines find it much more rewarding talking across disciplines than just focusing on their own field. Issues like sustainability, Indigenous leadership in built environment disciplines, issues like the gender experiences of the built world. These issues will only be taken forward through multiple understandings of the issues involved. And that's what we're really trying to do with the MSD. We're really trying to focus on solving the big issues that face the built world. So we are very confident that these double degrees are another step in doing that. All right, so the next discipline, the next slide, please. So as I've already presented, most of the degrees, double degrees, take between 3 and 4 years. But please note that if you've already undertaken a double major in an undergraduate degree in fields which correspond to your planned double master's degree enrolment, there will be some reduction, and particularly those double degree combinations which involve urban planning as one of the double degree choices. They are typically 3 years. All right, so here are some examples of students with different backgrounds in their Bachelor of Design degrees and what they potentially could enroll in the double master's degrees. Please note the credit for advanced standing for having done undergraduate subjects in other than your major have to be dealt with on a one-by-one basis. So please note that. Next slide, please. The double master's degrees will meet accreditation requirements of the following professional associations. You'll be eligible for membership of the Australian Institute of Architects if one of the double degrees you graduate with is a Master of Architecture. The registration requirements of the Architects Registration Board of Victoria and the Commonwealth Association of Architects will also be met through doing MArch as one of your double degrees. In landscape architecture, the relevant accrediting body is the Australian Institute of Landscape Architects. In urban planning and urban design, the relevant accrediting body is the Planning Institute of Australia. In construction management, there are a suite of accrediting bodies: the Australian Institute of Building, the Australian Institute of Quantity Surveyors, and the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. And that recognition of the construction management and property degrees means that, those degrees are accredited in several international jurisdictions as well. And finally, in property, it's the Australian Property Institute. All right. Next slide, please. So entry requirements, students must meet the entry requirements for each individual master's degree to be considered for entry into the double masters. So an undergraduate degree with a weighted average mark of at least 65 or Melbourne University of Melbourne equivalent, a personal statement of 500 words, and satisfy the University of Melbourne's English language requirements. For design degrees, a design portfolio is required, so that's urban planning, urban design, landscape architecture and architecture. They require a design portfolio. So these things are all entered online. You don't provide them physically. And individual course pages will provide you with detailed information on entry requirements and how to submit them. So the portfolios and the personal statements are used quite extensively in design disciplines. Next slide, please. All the double degrees are available to domestic and international applicants. Mid-year and beginning of year intakes are available, though mid-year commencement may depend on academic background and credit awarded for some programs. And part-time study is available for domestic students. I have the next slide, please. So here is a typical course of study for students who complete a double major in architecture and construction, assuming that they have architecture and construction undergraduate majors completed. Next slide, please. For students who have undertaken a construction major or an architecture major, but not both, typically they do an extra year to take their course of study up to 4 years. So at the top of the slide, you see what that first year of study would be like for students who've undertaken an undergraduate architecture major. And in the lower chart, you see what the first year is like for students who have completed an undergraduate construction major. Next slide, please. Here the subsequent years for those students who have completed a major at undergraduate level in architecture or construction. So that this is what their years 2 to 4 would look like in the double master's degree. Next slide, please. There are a number of locations where you can get further information, and you should check these out. As Nicole mentioned, this presentation will be available to download, or to look at online. So please check out these websites for further information about these degrees. And I think that's it.
Thank you. I'll just stop sharing that. Thank you. We've had some good questions come through, and I'd encourage everyone to keep sending those through. We have a bit of time to answer those live. So just give me a moment to check what's come through. Okay, we have a question. You did touch on the fact that, you know, most of our academics are, you know, industry professionals as well. But this person would like to know a bit more about what other opportunities they would have to connect with industry while they're studying at MSD.
Well, I mean, I think the main vehicle for connecting with industry is through, you know, the teaching. You know, so most of the teaching undertaken in the faculty is, or the Melbourne School of Design is done jointly by continuing academics with teams of teachers who they appoint from practice. So in a sense, the tutorials in most studios you know, represent opportunities for you to interact with professionals, because mostly they're taught by professional young professionals, or in some cases, in some subjects, the lectures will also be delivered by visiting professionals. I think many of those of us who are continuing academics also connect with the professional world by you know, through our continued activity as researchers, researching in collaboration with practitioners, and as I said in the presentation, there are many opportunities to interact in an extracurricular way through exhibitions and talks. So, I mean, before COVID, there was something like 400 events per year that occurred in the MSD. You know, so that's 2 or 3 events a day occurring. So some of those events will be very specific seminars being targeted at small cohorts of students, maybe who are interested in, I don't know, urban planning in Moreland or something like that. The other ones will be much more wide-ranging events. So one thing I didn't mention was that the faculty also, or the Melbourne School of Design also runs an annual conference where we try to look at a contemporary issue in the built environment across all built environment disciplines. So last year we held a conference on low-cost housing, affordable housing in Australia, and we had something like 60 speakers from across the world. Now, of course, in 2021 that had to be online, but pre-COVID those events occurred live. We would bring the speakers, typically a mix of academics and professionals leading in their fields to Melbourne to speak to those issues. And whenever the faculty, or whenever the Melbourne School of Design, I keep referring to the faculty, it's also the Faculty of Architecture and Building and Planning. It has 2 names, but the Melbourne School of Design, typically when we bring international speakers to the faculty, what we do is we encourage them to interact with students by not only having them speak in a public forum, but also to meet students in classrooms where the class is undertaking activities relevant to that visitor. So we really try to build a number of opportunities for students to interact with professional staff, professionals in their fields, both formal teaching situations and, as I said, extracurricular activities, which can take the form of exhibitions, conferences, and one-off talks. Some programs will have some informal mentorship arrangements also in place. I have to say that's particularly the case at undergraduate level, but it's developing at graduate level as well. And of course, many students undertake employment part-time while they're studying at the Melbourne School of Design. And we try to accommodate that as best we can. I don't know. I think there are many ways in which we facilitate interaction with the professions.
Yeah, definitely. One other one I thought of is there's a lot of student-run MSD clubs and societies, and these student-run groups will organise networking events and workplace visits and things like that as well. So as Paul mentioned, the opportunities to connect with industry are regular and numerous. So
that's right. In fact, the student groups, there are some student groups which are specific to disciplines like architecture or urban planning. There are also groups which span across all the built environment disciplines in the faculty. They also have their own talk series and often develop mentorship programs, particularly with young practitioners, who are more immediately just out of school, so they can share their experiences in finding employment, developing strategies for doing so, and the faculty, the Melbourne School of Design really supports those student groups. We don't have any problems with any of their activities, and we try to facilitate them as much as we can, even when they're critical of us.
Thanks, Paul. I've got there's a couple of questions here that kind of are interrelated, and we might need to answer this in a way that we're living in a normal world again. So we've got questions asking about the kind of opportunities for overseas travel as part of the course and exchange placements and things like that. So is that, people want to know if that's something that's offered as part of our courses as well?
Yes, there are, normally there are opportunities for, basically two kinds of international engagement in teaching and learning. The first are exchanges, which happen on a semester or full year basis. The students from Melbourne very often interested in travelling to Europe for exchanges. So a favourite destination is the Delft Technical University, which is one of the leading Dutch schools of architecture, or leading European schools of architecture, but there are several others with which we have exchanges as well, particularly in Scandinavia. The other way in which students can travel while studying is the faculty, or the Melbourne School of Design normally has a range of travelling studios. Now, I have to say those have been suspended while COVID is on, but I would expect for a student who is undertaking to start a 3 or 4 year degree now, that probably in your second year, some travelling studios will resume. So typically what those involve is doing an interdisciplinary studio, so involving more than one of the disciplines in the faculty. Typically, students would spend, say, 2 weeks on site in a location. It could be anywhere from Chile to Southeast Asia, China, Europe. Over the last 10 years, we've been virtually everywhere. And so typically you would do some preparatory study before you went on that field trip. you'd do the field trip in a period when teaching was otherwise not occurring usually, and then you would do some follow-up work on your return to Melbourne. Sometimes those travelling studios have also been joint with other universities internationally. So I'm aware of one studio that was conducted in Bandung in Indonesia in, I think, 2020, which involved collaborations with the University of Stuttgart, the Bandung Technical University, and the University of Melbourne. And so, I mean, I think those are particularly exciting kinds of studios, because you see another culture, and you not only see it through Australian eyes, but also through the eyes of locals and through the eyes of Europeans as well. So, I mean, so I would expect that those travelling studios would certainly pick up again in maybe in semester 2, 2022, but most likely in 2023.
That sounds about right. Yeah, it is very exciting. Very, very popular, and students, yeah, get very excited to apply their learning in a different context while getting, to see the world.
And typically the faculty has supported those financially. I mean, I think given the difficult financial circumstances where we all face, maybe those opportunities will be more selective in the future than they have been in the past, but it will certainly be the faculty's policy, the Melbourne School of Design's policy to support as much equity and access to those opportunities for international travel. So we don't just do those for students who can, afford the travel, but we try to support students who may find it challenging to afford to travel by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Back to the double master's degrees more specifically, what happens if a student starts a double master's and then wants to drop one of the combinations and just do a single master's degree?
Well, I can't say we've thought a lot about that as a scenario, but I don't think there would be any trouble in doing that, because the sequence of subjects might be different in the double degrees than in the individual degrees, but all of the subjects which are required to complete a single MSD master's degree are contained in the double degrees. So you would have completed all the requirements for the degree that you were choosing to go into. So I don't see there would be any problem, and there would be no consequences for Commonwealth supported places either, I don't think.
That's right. I can confirm from an administrative point of view that we do allow you to drop one component of the double masters and enroll in the single, and any the credits that you have completed where applicable, they would be crossed over into the single masters, and you would just need to complete the remaining requirements of that single degree to graduate.
And you may find that some of the subjects you've completed towards the other degree would count as electives in the degree that you chose to go with. So it's not as if the credits completed for the other degree that you're dropping would automatically be discounted. They may still be able to count as electives towards your selected degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it works the other way as well. If someone's enrolled in an MSD Masters right now, but they're considering doing a double Master's degree, it would kind of work the same way. They would need to apply for that double Master's degree, and they would be given that applicable credit for what they've completed so far. What else have we got coming through? Sorry, just bear with me. Yeah, this is a question we get quite often, to do with sort of what is the mix of theory and practice at master's level at MSD. Can you sort of discuss a little bit about that? Yeah.
Well, I think it depends on your selection of subjects. So the requirements for accreditation that all the Melbourne School of Design master's degrees have means that we have to meet curriculum requirements that the accrediting authorities have specified. Okay, so and those typically are quite pragmatic, not entirely so, and they also are changing quite significantly. So the Architects Accreditation Council of Australia, which sets accreditation requirements for the state registration boards. It's announced new accreditation requirements which will apply to architecture programs from 2023, which will require people completing their degrees to demonstrate a great deal of understanding of Indigenous issues in Australia. Now, I can't say that those are pragmatic requirements because the number of building projects which require understanding of those in a pragmatic way is limited. But it's very important that from a professional ethos point of view, that these issues have wider understanding than they have hitherto. So, but mostly the pragmatic requirements are represented through the registration issues. The theoretical issues that pertain to the particular programs are generally expressed or pursued in the non-studio kinds of subjects. And then each of the degrees also has electives, which allow students to either pursue their theoretical interests or more pragmatic interests. So I have to say that the Melbourne School of Design, in keeping with the University of Melbourne, it's quite an academic institution. We certainly do have a kind of theoretical expectation, or an expectation of theoretical competence in all our students. But at the same time, as I said, the registration requirements that we meet means that we're quite grounded in practice as well. I think that the best teaching that happens in the Melbourne School of Design leads to a kind of dialogue between theory and practice, and I think that's exactly how it should be.
We have time for probably a couple more questions, so send them through if you have any last minute questions. We have a question about online and on-campus studies. So, I mean, at the moment for semester one, I know we're offering most subjects dual delivery, but yeah, do we usually offer on-campus only or online only?
Well, I mean, the University of Melbourne is a campus committed university that strongly believes that on-campus experience is fundamental to tertiary education. So, and the Melbourne School of Design is very supportive of that that university view. But at the same time, I would say that the experiences of the last 2 years have led us to see some opportunities in online teaching that we may not be able to emulate in face-to-face teaching. So I would anticipate that over the next 18 months there will be some consideration of whether some aspects of our teaching shouldn't remain online or shouldn't be continued to be supported by more thorough online presence than was the case before. As it happens, the University of Melbourne shifted its online support for all teaching programs from Blackboard-based programs to Canvas-based programs at the beginning of 2020. This was just a coincidence, but the aim of doing that was to give much more opportunities for online support of face-to-face teaching. So so you know, in the subjects I teach, you know, our online presence is much more sophisticated than it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't think we're not going to go backwards in that way, and I think that one of the things that's happened through COVID, which has been very extraordinary in the School of Design, has been our ability to involve international practitioners in our teaching programs as critics and as guest lecturers. So, you know, I have colleagues who have run studios involving multiple practitioners based in Europe and the United States and Asia, say, and these are opportunities that we wouldn't have had previously. Now, when the world is over COVID, I don't know whether those international practitioners will decide they're so busy they can't interact with us, but we've established a kind of pattern of interaction with them, which I think we want to try and keep going to some degree. So I think that online teaching is going to be part of our future far more than it was part of our past, though hopefully in a much more positive and upbeat way than has been the case over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely a time that's pushed innovation. That's one thing that's come out of all this. So we're coming to the end of our session. I'll just mention as well that we're still currently accepting late applications for semester 1. So if you are interested in applying, please submit your application as soon as possible. That way we can get you an outcome for semester start. But if you're not ready to start, we do offer deferrals, and you can defer your offer to a later intake if it turns out you're not ready to start in semester 1. So hopefully we've answered your questions this evening. If you do have further questions, please feel free to submit them via the web form. The link will be posted in the chat. I'd like to thank our presenter, Professor Paul Walker, for taking us through the many highlights of studying at the MSD and the advantages of completing a double master's degree. Do you have any final comments, Paul?
Thanks, Nicole. I'm very pleased to have had this opportunity. I mean, the MSD, I think it's a wonderful community. It's very international, as well as connected very local to the local built environment professions. It really has a wonderful atmosphere, and I think that goes beyond its academic programs into the whole ethos of the place.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you also to my future students, colleagues, for their assistance behind the scenes. And lastly, a huge thank you to everyone attending this session and for submitting questions. We hope to see you on campus soon. Have a lovely evening.